We're going to start just by giving you a little bit of context into Rita's story. So if you can look at the screens.
I grew up alone most of the time because the three elder siblings was already in school. So obviously if you're a child and you're alone at home, you start running around in the street. So being alone, running around in the street, I started getting abused by men that was lurking the streets. And I actually started, I was confused because sometimes what you live with, you learn, and you learn, you practice, you become. So I used to see my mom with other men and them touching her and that kind of stuff. So obviously when the guys started abusing me in the street, I confused that with love. And then one day, the welfare just came and put us in a little Volkswagen and take us to court, and that was the end of us being at home. When they took us away from home, going into hostels where there were hostel parents, all of a sudden these hostel parents also started abusing, not just me, but many other children. And I think my story is not just what I went through, but there's so many other kids that go through the same journey that I went as a child. So by the time I turned 9 years old, I got I actually got raped by two army guys. And that actually was one of the worst things that ever happened to me. I mean, by this time I really hated my mother. I hated her because we got taken away from home. I hated her because she couldn't take us to live with her. I hated her because every time I went, I started running away. Obviously, I started rebelling and started running away. So every time I got to her, she would call the cops, and then they would pick me up and, had to go back to. So I was in and out of different children's homes, place of safeties, rebelling because, you need acceptance, you need something to fill this void that's not there anymore. I started making the wrong decisions, in order to find this love. So I was in matric when I fell pregnant. And all of a sudden the choice was made for me that I had to give the child up for adoption because I couldn't take the child with me. I had no place to go. So something in me crushed at that time. So I went to Joburg, and that night I met up with a gang called the Hells Angels and got raped by about 8 or 9 of them and left in the street. So that's where my journey started, because the only people who came to my rescue was the prostitutes. And then at 18, I got involved with a very notorious fraud syndicate, and I landed up in jail for fraud. And when I got into Kroonstad, I said, I'm not going to get abused again. So I became the abuser. When I got out of Kroonstad, because then the prostitution just escalated to another level. The drug use escalated to another, so it just progressed all the time, just progressed. I was very well known on the streets. I was, people were scared of me. So for many years, I was called Big Mama. I had an alias. I didn't operate as Rita. My name was Cassie. Everything fell apart. For the last 12 years of my prostitution years, that went on for about 30 years, it just went totally chaotic. Even if you don't think there's a purpose for your life, I think God still knows what He wants to do with you. And in 2005, I actually did not do anything wrong, and I got picked up, and I believe that's where God just took control and said, look here, if I'm not going to step in now, you're going to die a horrible death anyway. Something you need to change. And they picked me up and I got sentenced for 3 months. That's how I landed up in Westville, 2005. And miraculously, things started changing from then on.
Yeah, Rita, I just want to thank you so much for your bravery and just your vulnerability to share your story with us this morning. So thank you. Can you fill us in? What happened when you were in Westville prison? How did things start to change in your life?
Phew. Okay. This is big. Okay. First of all, before I can start, I think we've got to glorify God, because without God, I wouldn't have been sitting here today. I think God is very true to who He say He is, because I think He said He came to set the captives free and to open up the eyes of the blind. And I think that's exactly what He did for me in prison, 2005. I think I was blinded to the world and everything that was going on at that time. And the first time I think my eyes actually opened was in the prison cell, laying on my bed, and all of a sudden I heard this chirping. And I don't know, I was coming off drugs, so I could have maybe imagined this. But I heard this chirping, and I saw this tiny little bird on the bar in my cell. And all of a sudden I thought, oh my word, there's life out there. There's a different kind of life. And I think that's where everything actually started without me knowing, because the next morning I went down for breakfast, and this was the first time I've been locked up throughout my years that I saw so many women in one place. Not as much as here today, but there was about 150, and they started singing before we had breakfast, and this was the most beautiful sound I've ever heard. These girls were praising God, and my heart just sort of opened up, and I thought, wow, if that's what heaven must sound like, then I want to be there, Because at that time, I was actually emotionally, physically, mentally, and spiritually dying. I was basically dead. I wanted to die. Tried many times, but obviously God had another plan. And one night in my cell, I don't know what drew me down to my knees. I don't know if it was fear. I don't know if it was just because I didn't know what to do anymore. And I basically went on my knees and I said to God, if you are this God who everybody say you are, I was angry at Him anyway. And I've been to witch doctors, I've been to fortune tellers, I've done Muslim, I've done occults, I've done whatever religion you wanted to go into. And I said, if you are who you are, then you better show me. And you've got to do this, because I don't know what to do. I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. And just all of a sudden, things started changing. And first of all, I think God must have said, you've had men so much in your life, I'm going to have to send you women. And the first woman that He sent into my life was Jill Marshall from CityHill Church. She came to do prison ministry, and she heard my story. And it wasn't long after that I've met the most wonderful woman that I could have ever met. She fulfilled a role in my life that no other person ever did. She became my teacher. She became my mentor, and she became my spiritual wise counselor. And that is Joey Duplessis. I don't know if she's here tonight. She must have seen something in me that nobody else seen. And it didn't matter to her what my past was. She said to me, we all have a past, but you don't have to stay a victim in your past. And she gave me an ultimate. She said, you're going to have to choose. If you want to come and let me help you, you've got to pull your sentence. And I had to choose going back to the Nigerian or going to Kelan. And most probably through the Holy Spirit, I chose Kelan. And yeah.
And that's how you found Jesus, hey?
I think that was the start.
Amazing.
I didn't know at that time.
So tell us about your journey to finding Christ, to finding freedom. It's been a long road for you.
Oh, it's been a long road. First of all, I had to submit to this woman. I think that was the most difficult thing ever. I had to submit, totally submit. It took me a long time, but I got there. But I had to deal with a lot of fear. I had to deal with a lot of shame. I had to deal with a lot of guilt. And it wasn't easy. But Joey mentored me. She stood with me. She didn't see my behavior. She didn't care about what I did or what I said. She stuck her guns, and she led me into, I am now actually, I understand being free in Christ.
It's amazing.
And yeah.
Thank you, Lord, hey? That's awesome. And then Rita, on your journey with Christ, what was some of the most difficult things the Lord challenged you to in your journey to finding wholeness and healing?
Forgiving. I think I wouldn't have been here if it wasn't for learning how to forgive. I had to learn how to forgive myself. I had to get rid of the self-condemnation, the self-guilt, the self-loathing. I had no self-esteem, I had no self-dignity, I had no self-value or self-worth. But yes, through the wise counseling, I dealt with it, I had to work with it. And one of the biggest things was my pride, my anger towards my mother. But again, Joey stepped in, and I had to go and clean up a place. My mother never called me on my name, and I didn't want her to go and do what I was supposed to do, but I went, and while I was cleaning my mother's place, I think I met Jesus that day, because, yeah.
Amazing, thank you.
Yeah, and just the anger towards, wanting to have a relationship with my child, and then finding out that he didn't want me in his life. So I had to forgive, I had to come to acceptance, it was a hard road, but yeah, got over it.
So tell us now, Rita, what does your life look like today?
I'm flourishing.
Gorgeous. Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, it's amazing, because I think 2 years ago when Vanessa Goosen was here, one of the ladies actually in this auditorium made a thing over me and said, you're going to be on the stage. So get yourself ready, and it happened. I opened a vision board with my cell group about 2 years ago, and I said I wanted to become a speaker, I wanted to do women's conferences, I wanted to go on mission trips, I wanted everything. I want to get married and I want children. I can't have children, and I don't know about marriage, but it's like the vision board is the vision board is coming alive.
Absolutely. And then share with us just quickly on one of your recent mission trips, you had quite a miraculous healing.
Yes, I had. And again, there's some of the women. Again, women. God is very clear, I need women in my life. There's women in this auditorium that was with me on that mission trip. And you know, we sometimes don't believe in miracles and we don't believe things can happen to you. And I was smoking up to 2 to 3 packets of cigarettes, and I had no desire to give up smoking. I had no reason to give up smoking. I didn't want it to give up. I was getting quite irritated with them because, but any case, eventually, you know, and I believe now that when 2 or 3 people pray together, there's power, because they started praying, I went down and I came up and never to smoke again.
Amazing.
So, yeah.
Okay. Wow. Thank you, Rita. You know, the Bible tells us that we are new creations in Christ. And I think looking at you, you are such a powerful picture of a new creation in Christ and of God's redeeming and restoring love. So, yeah, well done. Thank you for sharing your amazing story with us today and for being such a blessing. Thank you, Rita. I think hearing Rita's story and watching that video, Katie, it just opens your eyes and gives you perspective into how ladies end up in these horrific situations. Can you just share with us to start a little bit about A21? What is A21 all about?
Sure. So, good afternoon, ladies. Nice to see you all here. A21, we are a global anti-human trafficking organization. So I think at the moment we're 14 offices in 12 countries. We're growing very fast, so sometimes I lose track. But we're 14 offices in 12 countries, and we basically believe the audacious goal that we can abolish slavery everywhere forever. So in the countries that we operate, that's what we do, and no different in South Africa. What we do is we look at reaching the vulnerable with how to protect themselves from being trafficked. We look at rescuing the victim through our hotlines and professional training, and then restoring the survivor to independence. Those are the 3 things: reach, rescue, restore, that we do across the world, and no different in South Africa in the area of anti-human trafficking.
When I think, maybe this is a bit ignorant, but when I think of human trafficking, I often think it's maybe a problem that's bigger overseas, you know, in Europe. How real a problem is it in South Africa?
People ask that all the time, because I think we struggle to believe that something so atrocious actually happens on our doorstep. Human trafficking is rife in South Africa. The thing about human trafficking is it's an organized crime, and so it grows very fast, and the word organized crime describes that it's organized. So it's rings that operate globally that also infiltrate and operate in South Africa. But the thing is that human traffickers, or people who traffic others and exploit them, they prey on vulnerability. And if you look to your left and to your right, you will see vulnerability. I think the statistics are that 54 out of every 100 people in our country have high vulnerability indicators to falling prey to trafficking. 54% of our country is vulnerable to atrocities like this. And so I think when you know that and when you understand that, you can see that, of course, human trafficking happens here. We obviously also have very porous borders, land borders and sea borders, and we have a very booming mining and agriculture industry across our country, and that's it's rife for forced labor, you know, forced labor in illegal mines and forced labor in agriculture.
I know that A21 has got some quite strict policies in place with regards to protecting your victim stories, but are you able to share with us, even if it's generally, the type of rescues that you've been able to help with and facilitate?
Sure. So we run a hotline you would have seen from that video there. In fact, that video is 1 out of 3 that we've created from a campaign called the Can You See Me campaign. And it's a campaign to actually help people identify trafficking that is hidden right in front of your eyes. It's to make the invisible visible. So when you're looking at someone standing on the street corner, maybe you start to think maybe they're not there by choice, but maybe actually their vulnerability has been manipulated for them to be there. And so some of the part of that campaign is actually to respond to the hotline. And we've had some incredible rescues off that hotline. Our team operates that, it's 24/7, and we operate nationally. We've actually had 1 or 2 victims who have gotten hold of the number and called it themselves. I think we've had 3 rescues like that, where they've called the number and they've said, right, I don't know where I am. I've gotten hold of a phone and someone gave me this number, and now help me. And we've had to get them to describe their surroundings. We've had to then find out where they are and navigate them over the phone to the closest police station. What our call specialists would do then is also call ahead to the police station that we're sending them to say, a victim who looks like this, and this is their story, is about to walk in, please receive them. Our police stations aren't very equipped yet to identify trafficking, and so we help them to identify. And we've had maybe 2 or 3 rescues like that. We've had one rescue where a girl was put in an Uber cab or an Uber to go to her next client, and she just said to the Uber, however much they've paid you for this, drive me as far as I can get. And he dropped her off at a McDonald's, and she got rescued, her restoration from a McDonald's there. So we've had some incredible rescues like that. That's not just sex trafficking, it's for domestic servitude, for labor as well.
And then, Katie, once you've rescued ladies out of their situations of slavery, how do you help facilitate their journey into freedom and their new lives?
That's a very loaded question. That's a lot. Can I say that, Rita, you were gracious enough to share some of your experience and story. It's not a drop in the pond. It's not a, you rescued and now you're free. There's years and layers of hurt and exploitation and trust being broken. And so really that's where you start. You're starting with someone who has had their trust completely smashed and looking at, well, how do I start to teach this person that they can actually trust me? And it's walking that long journey. What are your hopes? What are your dreams? Taking them from a place of complete crisis to, okay, maybe I can dream again. Maybe I can do something with my life, and helping them to facilitate that. It's not a 2-week journey. It's not a 2-month journey. It's not a 2-year journey. It's a very long journey. And it definitely is more than just A21. We partner with a lot of organizations around the country, but churches especially. I think, we're sitting at Flourish, so I'm going to be honest. Restoration of women and men who have been exploited like this doesn't happen without community and being welcomed back into normal, loving community. And so, us as a company of people, we have a responsibility as well to become part of people's journey and restoration when they have been rescued from such atrocities.
Thanks, Katie.
No worries.
How else can we, as the ladies sitting here at Flourish, how can we help? If we're feeling stirred and moved about, what we've just heard, how can we get involved? What can we do to help?
Okay, so one thing as A21 is we believe that actually everybody can do something in the anti-slavery movement. We are all modern-day abolitionists. And so it depends what you've got to give. If you've got finances to give and you want to donate, you can do that. You can donate financially to support the work of A21. But maybe you have a flair for throwing parties and you want to turn your birthday party this year into a fundraiser or into an awareness raiser, or maybe even a collection of toiletries for us to give to safe houses around the country. There's beautiful things that you can do like that, very practically using what's in your hand. But I also want to suggest that you jump on our website and you have a look at this Can You See Me campaign. Because the part of this campaign, the power in it, is that we need it to be shown in public places where a lot of people can see this and either as victims self-identify or as general public be able to recognize, oh, that's trafficking. It's not an illegal immigrant. It's not a prostitute on drugs. It's actually a victim, and I can call and make a call of this. If you have the ability to show these films on your social media, or a shop where they can be viewed, or a school where we can play it, that's a very practical way that you can get involved with the work of A21, is viewing the Can You See Me campaign and airing it. So jump on our website, a21.org/Can You See Me, and check it out. Maybe your heart is stirred to get involved with that.
Thank you so much, Katie. And then also just to say, ladies, there is a stand in our Flourish shop with more information about A21. So please go visit it. They are also selling these little wristbands for 20 Rand if you want to wear them, just in terms of raising awareness. And Holster Shoes are doing a really great partnership with them. So Holster Shoes, super trendy, and 200 Rand a pair and 100 Rand of every pair sold is going towards A21. So I just want to put a call out there, because if we can sell out our stock, we can actually put 20,000 Rand towards A21 off the back of Flourish. So just another encouragement to go check that out and to help support. Guys, thank you so much. That was really awesome. Guys, can we give them a round of a hand? Just thank you.
Welcome.